going on YouTube? Welcome back to the channel. If you're new, hit the subscribe button. So you've clicked on the video, you know what we're about today. Getting into the car trade at the ground, basically buying and selling from your house. So there's a couple of things before we jump in why I prefer to sell cheap Fords and things like that, Polos and Corsas. So the first reason, there's a lot more people looking for cheap cars like that. So if you can find yourself a good one or turn a bad one into a good one by fixing it up a little bit, you are definitely onto a winner there. Secondly, if it needs parts, if I need to get something for this car, I can go to a scrapyard, get that part for cheap, and there you go. You haven't spent a lot of money, so you're not investing a lot of money. So there's not a lot of risk. You've got a little bit of money in the car, a little bit of money in parts. You sell it for a little bit more. So maybe the amount of money you're making is not as much, but the risks are lower. So I prefer cars at around £1,000, fix them up, sell them on. So today we're going to be looking at this Ford Focus 1.6. The first thing you got to do is find a car. So now you need to start just trawling through adverts, looking around, and you're going to see that a car pops up and you think, oh, that one looks cheap compared to the others of that make that are for sale with that mileage, that age, blah blah, you know. So you find a car. So first thing you're going to do is jump on the government website, put the registration in, and look at the previous MOTs and make sure that there's nothing in there that scares you off straight away. So this car has clean MOTs except for the fact that there's a bit of corrosion on the rear left side undersill, but that for a car of this age is common, it's normal. I'm not going to sweat it. So got the car. First of all, I've checked it on the government website. That's sweet. So I know exactly where in terms of what I might have to do. Obviously it's been a year, this MOT runs out in April, but in a year the car hasn't really fallen apart from the last MOT, has it? And look at the mileage difference as well. So if the advert says it's on 50,000 and the last MOT was on 30,000, it's on 20,000 miles, so you might need tyres now, might need brakes now. So that's something that you want to bear in mind. But jump forward. So we've checked the car in MOT history before we go and see it. If you have the ability to do a HPI check, I would 100% get that done. Obviously I do a HPI on every single car regardless, because it's not worth the journey. You get there and it's crash damage, or you're trying to sell it and somebody runs a HPI and you find out it's a categorized car. So HPI it, government website, now you're ready to view the car. Call the customer, book a viewing, go see it. So we're there. So you turn up at a seller's house. What I'm going to say here is one of the biggest things, guys, and that's trust your gut. If something don't feel right, don't buy the car. So there's so many times that somebody's going to be selling a car and they're not telling you the truth of the car. They're not telling you what's going on with the car because they want to get rid of the car. They want it sold. There's a problem with the car, but they've maybe fixed it enough so that they can sell it. They've got it running. So yeah, trust your gut. If something don't feel right, just walk away. Like, there's a amount of times that we've been done over from people saying it's a good car, no issues, and we're talking like 5-6 grand cars here, and we've gone through it and it's just an absolute nail of a car, and you're like, we've already bought it, or actually we're not gonna buy this car because it isn't as advertised. You know, you've got issues with this car, it's not for us. So if you don't feel right, don't buy the car. So you turn up at the house, we're here, everything looks all right, camera, so the car's there, sweet. What have we got? Nice little Ford. So you're going to start with the basics. Remember, if you're going to sell a car, there's kind of like a rule of 3. So if there's 3 things wrong with the car, most buyers don't want to buy the car. So you have to remember that each panel on the car that needs to be painted is 150 quid. But on a car like this, you're not going to look to be doing much paintwork unless you can do it yourself with a rattle pan or a rattle pen or a touch-up paint. That's where you kind of at with these cars, which is why I like them, because if you're buying like a 3-4 grand car, you want the paintwork to be decent, so you are going to have to put more in paint, so you need to buy that cheaper, whereas these you can get away with bits. So we'll start at the front bumper. Got a little scratch there, some of that will polish out, but really not worried about that. So a few little marks there on the front, but again, we're not going to overly worry about these tiny little marks on the car. We're not going to we'll buff the little bits where the scratches are. You've got mirror damage here and it's all faded and cracked, but again, we'll look to sell this car for about £1,000. So again, it isn't £1,000 car, what do you expect? This is nice for a £1,000 car. It's clean, there's no significant damage, there's no marks, it's got alloys. So we're checking the bodywork. There's a little bit of damage down the back, but again, £1,000 car, a little bit of more there. So there's a few areas, losing my voice, some more scratches and marks here. So there's a few areas that are scratched, but we're not gonna, it's not damage that puts us off buying the car, because actually it's not actually horrific. There's no rust patches, there's no big dents, there's a couple of scrapes, but that's what you're going to expect when buying a £1,000 car. So what the next step obviously is checking the wheels. The wheels you can clean up, you can put, obviously if you're, when you're fixing it up, you can put a bit of paint in that and in here and tidy it up. Just make sure none of them are cracked, because again, having to get a replacement wheel, nightmare. Checking your tread depth on your tires, so having to put a new set of tires on the car, that's a cost. And most people when you're buying these sort of cars, if you can get a year's MOT on it with a couple of advisories, that's bang on. That's what you want. Like, you want a year's MOT. So this MOT runs out in April, so the car's got a year's MOT. You're on to a winner. But if you have to put an MOT on it, you need to check these things, because as soon as it goes for the MOT and they come back, you need tyres, you need a ball joint, the rust exhaust, it's game over, the car's done. Like, you're going to spend 500 quid doing those bits, plus your prep cost. So you're you bought the car for free, you're selling it for £1,000, you've got 200 quid left in it. So it's checking the things that are going to cost you money is the most important. So tyres, tread depth, brakes. Your brakes, so you can see that that pad is pretty low. So that's good actually. So you got good pads, any lip on the disc, little tiny lip, but they're not going to replace that this year. So I'm not going to have to do brakes, I'm not going to have to do tyres. Again, back tyre, loads of tread. With your tyres as well, guys, it's not just tread. Don't just check tread across even tread wear. It's the face of the wheel. So a lot of MOT testers will say that if there's cracks or damage in the outer wall, that will fail a tyre. So it's not just tread depth. You need to check for wear. So tyres last 5-6 years and then they start to crack and perish. So yeah, that is going to be a factor to the tyres. So obviously check the tread, but also check the face of the tyre. So on this little Focus, tyres are good, brakes are good, bodywork's decent enough. We've got a little damage on the mirror, really not worried about it. So overall, clean car. I haven't cleaned this car, this is how it come in. So let's have a look inside. Without it sounding like a pun, I did buy this off an old lady. So she was in her 70s. So the interior is very, very clean, as you normally expect with the older generation. They're taking care of their cars. So it's very clean. To the point where I'm literally just gonna flash a Hoover over it and I'm done to sell it. So it's not, we're not gonna be doing any work on this car today because it's not really any work. I'm gonna give it a little jet wash. Sun's out today. Gonna give it a jet wash, and that is literally gonna be it. So the interior, what you're looking for is extensive damage on a seat, so you might have to replace the seat, which again, common practice in the car trade is replacing seats out. So you'll go online, you'll find one from a scrapyard and you'll swap the seat out if it's all tore, ripped, cigarette burn. Seat for one of these is going to be about what, 20 quid. So, but that's another £20, and the money adds up quick when you're selling cars. You have to do a car aerial if that's broken, that's 15 quid. Then you need to get a radio code if that's broken, or if you haven't got the radio code, 15 quid. A tyre, money adds up silly quick. So you really need to make sure when you're looking at the car, when you're there, you get all your costings in and try and negotiate a price on that basis. So obviously that's where we're at. One downside So I'm not going to go with that. I'm going to come back. So yeah, interior, this doesn't need nothing. It's really nice interior, really decent. So far, this is looking like absolutely cracking car. But this car does have some really bad selling points. Service history. So the service history that I've got with the car only goes up to 2014. So I've got no service record. They all look quite good. I'm going to pop the filter and see what that looks like. But I don't have any service history past 2014 with the car. She just never, when she traded the car in, it never came in. So I've got a logbook. I know that I'm going to re-MOT the car. I've got no service history for when she's owned the car. Big downside. Then the next issue, which is an issue here, the instrument cluster, the speedo, the rev counter and the miles per hour cluster was replaced in 2010. So it went up to 30,000. They replaced the cluster and now it's gone up to 36,000. So this car is actually on 65,000, but the clock reads 36,000. So you need to make sure that's really clear in the advert. I've got the stamp in the service book that says it was replaced by Ford in 2010. So it has a replacement cluster. On the MOT history, when you go through that, you can see the mileage up to that service and then it starts again at 0. But you can't advertise this car as 36,000 miles because it's not. So you need to really make sure that you put that the cluster was replaced, that the mileage is, add the mileage up, put that mileage in the advert and clearly state it was a replacement cluster in 2010. That's what, 11 years ago now, so it's a long time ago. But there's only like 60,000 on this car again, which is amazing, not 36. So again, it's, people are going to be a bit nervous about this car because it's showing 36. I'm going to tell them it's 70, but again, we're keeping the price under £1,000 so you can still move it. No service history, clock's been changed. It's already getting harder to sell. So, you know, we might not make £1,000 off this car. We might take 700 quid with an MOT and that's that. Like, it's going to be a harder one, but I still think we'll sell it. So we've done the outside. We know what that's going to cost us. This one, nothing. We've checked the interior. We know we've got to sort out in there, which on this one, nothing, win-win. In terms of advertising the car, we need to obviously try and be as transparent as possible with this one because it has the cluster replacement. But we have the print out. We'll put the picture of that in the advert. So we're sorted there. So next we want to look at the engine. Obviously, this is the most important part of a car. If the car doesn't run and drive, or if there's an issue with it, again, that's more money for you. You don't want to sell bad cars, man. Like, for me, I would never, ever, ever sell a car that I didn't trust, that I would not be happy to put my kids in the car. I wouldn't sell it. That's just not what I'm about. And people that do that really piss me off, to be honest. They are scummy people. So I always drive the car around for a couple of weeks before I sell it. That's a true story. The S5 sits on the drive and I drive around in these to make sure they're good, to make sure that if there's anything, I whip it up to Danny at Library Road. He checks the car, he sorts it out and we sell it. So whether I make no money or do make money, I always make sure the car's right. And if the car's not right, I paid 300 quid, I'll scrap the car, I'll sell the headlights, sell the wheels, scrap the car and it's done. Like, I'm not gonna sell a bad car to somebody because I would hate that done to me, which happens to me in the car trade. Jokes. So, and obviously, first inspections, so coolant, it's good, it's red, it's where it needs to be. Gonna check, obviously, for your mayonnaise that everybody looks for, but on these, you can actually see inside. There's no plastic cam cover, so you can see inside. Doesn't look too bad. I mean, it's only done 70,000. Oil, I've only got no service history, obviously, since 2014. But if you hold the oil up, can we get that on camera? It's not black. It's not too bad. So it has obviously been serviced, but I probably will, depending on what I'm trying to sell it for, whack a service on the car just so I've got a stamp for it done. Batteries, have a look at the battery. That's been replaced, so that looks like a decent battery. Again, if the battery's knackered, more in the winter than the summer, I'm gonna pop the airbox and have a look at the filter because I haven't checked that. But again, you want to look for corrosion inside the engine bay as well. And it doesn't look too bad. It's an old car, but again, it doesn't look too bad. We're gonna look for oil leaks. So anything that looks over oily, that's obviously a replacement belt. I would have thought. It looks decent, looks new, so that's definitely a win. And it all looks pretty dry. Oil, if it had an oil leak, you'd just see like build-up of oil down on the gearbox. It's clean. That definitely looks new though, doesn't it, that belt? So yeah, engine bay, good. But now you've got to start the car and see how it runs, how it starts, and then test drive. But let's start the car up. So, another good selling point about this one, it's an old car, but it does have aircon. A lot of these Fords don't have aircon, man. Had a Suzuki Swift last week, 2013, no aircon. What is that? Okay, so flick it on. She gives a full tank of fuel as well. So I'm definitely not selling this car for a week. I'm using that fuel. Fire straight up. All the warning lights go out. Make sure that all the warning lights go out. Let it run. Let it get to temperature. So it's an old 1.6 Ford. It's ticking away. No noises, no knocking, no tapping. That's what you want to see. And then obviously you don't want it smoking out the back. Again, that's powering. Once it's up to temperature, give it a little rev. Maybe when you get back from a test drive. So the car's running great. The car's definitely the 300 quid that I've bought this for. Somebody advertising this, probably 500-600 quid. Try and do a deal with them, get it for 4, sell it for 8. You know, it's 400 quid. You've doubled your money again. Small flips, and they're easy to sell. You can have a car for 4 grand and be trying to sell that for 2 months, or you can buy this for a couple of hundred quid, sell it in a couple of days and buy a couple. You know, so sometimes the cheaper cars, you can sell more of them and make more money than buying one nicer car. And the BMWs and Audis, they're expensive on parts, man. So that's another risk factor that I don't like. I like Audis, I like BMWs, I've got them, but I'd prefer to sell this sort of stuff because it's less risk. So the next step would be go for a test drive. I drove the car home and back to the dealership today. So I'm driving it, doing the steering rack, making sure that there's no knocking or creaking, going over speed bumps, brakes, accelerator, checking that there's no smoke when I accelerate, making sure that everything works as it should. Check the aircon, because somebody buys it, they're going to want to, if the aircon doesn't work, they're going to charge for a regas, or if it's something more expensive like a condenser or something like that, it's expensive. In the summertime, everybody's checking the aircon, so you need to make sure that your aircon works when the weather's nice. And in the bad weather, you need to check the batteries, because cold weather kills the battery. So it's kind of like batteries in winter, aircon in summer. So that's basically what you want to be looking out for, what you want to look at when you're starting out to buy cars. The more you do it, the better you'll get. Always Google the car, common faults, 2003 Ford Focus 1.6. That's going to bring up a list of things that are wrong with the car. Always a good idea to check that. You're just going to get the faults, ain't you? And that's it. I'm going to literally tidy this up, book it in for an MOT and sell it on. And it's that simple with this one. Coming up on the channel, the S5 is currently on my drive dead with a flat battery. So we're going to bring that back to life, get that sorted, and back on the road, ready for June 21st, car show season. The BMW is still at paint. It's been there for 2 weeks now. Come on, I want my car back. So that'll be going up for sale when that comes back. But yeah, as always guys, massive thank you for everybody that watches and subscribes, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace out.